Hey guys, so as seen in the preview, we're going to be creating an RPG game. In that RPG game, we're going to have all these different features. We're going to start off creating the Tilesets, Player UI, Shop UI, NPC UI, Scene Change UI, Game Over UI, Player Movement, Player Animations, Player Sword and Bow, Player Knockback. Then we're going to move on to creating the Potion Collection, Camera Follow, Checkpoints, Slime Enemy, Snake Enemy, Mushroom Enemy, NPC Character, Creating Quests, Coin Collection, and a boss battle. My name is William, and I will be your instructor for this course. I've been creating games, apps, and websites for many years, but love teaching people how to create them even more. I'm also the creator of Red Fool Studio, where we create loads of content just like this to help people become software developers. If you have not already checked out our official website, redfoolstudio.com, go ahead for more content just like this. Without further ado, let's jump right in and begin the course. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. So in this section, we're going to go ahead and create the 2D project, create project folders, set screen size, and change the camera background. Let's go ahead, jump right in, and get started. Alright, so I've gone ahead and already created the default 2D project, which is this here right now. I have nothing in it currently. Now let's go ahead and create some folders for our organization. Right over here we have scenes currently for our sample scene that we're currently in. Let's go ahead and create some more. So I'm going to right click over here. I'm going to go up to create. I'm going to go to folder. I'm going to select that. Let's name this one art. That we can hold all of our art in. Let's do another one. Let's go to create. Let's go to folder. Let's call this one prefabs. Awesome. Let's right click. Let's go to create. Let's do another one. This one will be for animations. Awesome. And let's go ahead, do one more now. Go to create, go to folder. This one will be for scripts. Awesome. All right, looking good for our folders. I like it. Now, next thing we could do is restructure how the screen looks. It's a little too wide, I think, for the game we're going to be making. So let's go to the game scene. Now, currently it's in free aspect, and I don't really want that one. I think a good one we should use should be either the 16:9 or 16:10. Let's see how the 16:9 looks. That looks pretty good to me. Let's see how the 16:10 looks. That's a little small, so let's go back to the 16:9. Now, if you don't have these, you can also add them in down here, just right over here. Make sure the type is the correct one, aspect ratio, and then you can type in the X and Y for it. All right, but if you already have the 16:9 one right here, you can just use that. Awesome. All right, last thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the camera right over here. Then we're going to go to the right on the inspector, go to the background of the camera, and we're just going to change that to black. So go ahead and take that color wheel and just pull it all the way down. Awesome. All right, don't forget to save. So far, so good. All right, so in this section, we're going to go ahead and add all the imports for our game. We're going to start off downloading a free assets pack called Ninja Adventure Assets Pack from itch.io. I will add the link to the description of the video. Then we're also going to go ahead and extract all the sprites we're going to use for our game. And then we're going to go ahead and drag and drop them into our Unity art folder. Let's go ahead, jump right in, and get started. Alright, so this is the official Ninja Adventure Pack. It's created by Pixelboy at itch.io. I'll put this in the description as mentioned before. Now this is going to have everything we need to create our simple RPG game. It's going to have a bunch of characters, a bunch of buildings, a bunch of tile sets, items, weapons, all that stuff. Alright, so once here, just go ahead and scroll down and select download. Now remember, once you download this, you're going to need to right click on it and hit extract all, okay? Make sure to do that before dragging and dropping it into our Unity art folder. All right, so I've dragged and dropped my extracted Ninja Adventure Pack right here in my art folder, as you can tell. So if I go back to the assets folder, you can see the art folder is now filled with something. If you click on it and go into it, you should see the Ninja Adventure. Now, one thing to note, if we go into it and then go into it again, and then go all the way to actor, and then go to characters, I'm going to be using the blue samurai, or actually I think I'm going to be using the blue ninja, which kind of looks like the samurai, I think. I'm going to be using this. Now, the best way to do this, so we don't have to keep digging in and looking for specific ones, is I like to just drag and drop the current one I'm using into the original assets and then re-put it back into the art one, okay? So I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to be using this character a lot, so I'm going to drag him over here, put him here, click into here. Now I know that's the correct one. Now I'm going to go ahead and just put it in the art folder, and there we go. So now it's currently on the top of the art folder because I'm going to be using it over and over again. Now, some other things to note is the settings we're going to be setting are sprites. Currently, they're all 16 by 16, so make sure when you're over here in the inspector, on the pixels per unit, you're doing 16. Also, if it's a multiple one, make sure to do the sprite mode as multiple. Another thing to set is also the filter mode. Make sure that is point. And then another setting I like to do for the format, instead of automatic, I like to do RGBA 32-bit, okay? So make sure you have all those set. Now, once those are all set, go ahead to the sprite editor, hit apply. Now, once that opens up, it's going to open up another window, as you can tell, like this. Now, we need to split this, of course, because it's not formatted correctly. It just thinks it's one image. So go to the slice right over here. Go to type, change that to grid by cell size. Change the X and Y, again, to 16, because this is a 16 by 16. There you go. Hit slice. Select somewhere else. Make sure to hit apply right over here. Awesome. Close that. And then there you go, open up your player, and there you go. There's all the images sliced perfectly. Awesome. All right, so far so good. Don't forget to save. All right, so in this section, we're going to go ahead and create the tile sets for our game. We're going to start off cropping and sizing all the tile sets we're going to be using. Then we're going to go ahead and add a grid with certain layers for the tile sets. Then we're going to go ahead and create the example scenes. Let's go ahead, jump right in, and get started. Alright, let's go ahead and pick out the sprites we're going to be using for our tile sets. Let's go ahead into our art folder, then into the Ninja Adventure Pack, and let's click on it again. Then let's go into the background folder, then into the tile sets. Awesome. So now we're going to be grabbing a couple of these and dragging and dropping them into the art folder. So let's go ahead, scroll up over here so we can see the art folder. Awesome. Let's go ahead and grab the ones we want to use. I want to use this one here for the tile set floor. Let's grab that, put it in the art. All right. Awesome. That's the first one. Let's scroll back up. Now the next one we should use is the nature pack right over here. It's going to have all the trees, rocks, and other nature stuff. Let's grab that, put that into the art folder. Awesome. All right, now that we have that one, we also want to grab one for the houses, which should be, I think, this one right here. Tile set. If you click on it, you should see it. Yep, that looks like all the houses and stuff, I think. Awesome. So let's go ahead and grab that in there as well. Or actually, you know what? I think it's this one over here. Yeah, okay. That one looks similar. This is just like other effects we can have in the background. But for now, we're just going to stick with this house one over here, okay? So go ahead, grab that one, put it into our art folder. Awesome. All right, I think that's good for this section here. Now, if you want to add more, you totally can. But other than that, for this, we're also going to need some interior. We're going to need the walls and then the wall floor right over here. So let's go ahead, grab this one in here, put that into the art. Scroll back up. Let's go ahead and grab this one here as well. And we should be good. Awesome. So let's go back into the art folder now. And now, other than the sprite one we're using right here, we also have the tile set floor, tile set houses, tile set interior walls, tile set interior floors, and then also the tile set nature pack. Awesome. All right, so far so good. All right, let's go ahead and crop and size everything all good. So first thing we're going to do is go to the tile set floor run right here. Let's go ahead and change this to multiple. Let's also change the pixels per unit to 16. Remember, we're going to go to filter mode, change that to point, and also the format, change that to 32-bit. Awesome. Go to sprite editor, hit apply. Awesome. Let's make sure we slice everything correctly. Go to the slice up here at the top left. Make sure it's 16 by 16. Click on slice, and there you go. Awesome. All right, that's one done. Let's do the rest of them now. Let's do the tile set house one. All right, so go ahead, change that to multiple. Change it to 16. Go to point filter. Also go to format of 32-bit. Go to sprite editor, hit apply. All right, let's go to slice. Make sure it's 16 by 16. Hit slice. Awesome, so far so good. Hit apply. All right, exit out of that. Let's do the next one. Let's go ahead, change it to multiple. 16 point, also 32-bit. All right, go to sprite editor, hit apply. Let's go to slice, 16 by 16. Slice, awesome. Hit apply. Looking good. Let's do another one now. Let's go ahead and make this multiple. 16 point filter. Change that to 32-bit. Go to sprite editor, hit apply. All right, go to slice, 16 by 16. Slice again. All right, hit apply. Awesome, close out of that. Let's do the last one now for the nature pack. Let's go ahead, multiple. 16. Filter mode point. Format 32-bit. Sprite editor, hit apply. Make sure it again is 16 by 16. Hit slice. Hit apply. Let that load. Hit X. Awesome. All right, so far so good. All right, next thing let's do, let's make the actual tile set layers now. So how we're going to do that, we're going to go right over here, right below the main camera object. We're going to right click. We're going to go down to 2D object. Then we're going to go ahead to tile map. And we're going to use the rectangular one. All right, it's going to ask for a name. So let's give this one a name. This will be tile map ground, which will be the lowest layer one. Awesome. All right, I'm going to set this tile map ground to layer order in layer -5, okay? Awesome, so make that -5 right over here, perfect. Let's create another one now. I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this one, Control D. Let's change the name. Instead of tile map ground, let's call this tile map nature. All right, then let's go ahead and make this one a -4, okay? Because this is going to be one above the one for the ground. Awesome. Let's go ahead, Control D on this as well, and make another one. This one will be for the houses. So let's go ahead, tile map, and let's call this houses. If I can go back on, there we go. Houses. All right, let's go ahead, hit enter for that. And we're going to do one more. This is just going to be for any objects above the houses, such as like signs on top of the houses. So let's go ahead, change the name for this. Let's do houses above. There we go. Let's go ahead and make this layer a -3. So we should have a 5, 4, that one should be 3 actually, and this one should be 2. So this one's going to be -2, not -3. And this one here is going to be the -3. All right, awesome. So it's very important to make sure you have the order in layers correct. Again, this one should be -5, the nature one should be -4, the houses one should be -3, and then the house above should be -2. Awesome. All right, make sure you got that down. All right, let's go ahead and make the palettes now for our tile sets. Let's go ahead and start. So I'm going to select the tile map ground one right here. You're going to see this tile set thing right here. Go ahead and hit open tile palette. I'm going to put this right at the top right corner, just like that. Perfect, so we can both see the inspector and the screen over here as well. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and make sure you're on the tile map ground right here. It's going to say no valid palette. We're going to create a new one. So let's go ahead and create a new one. I'm going to call this one ground. All right, let's go ahead and hit create. It's going to ask where you want to create it. I'm just going to go ahead and we can keep it in here for now. We'll move it later on. All right, it's going to have it right here. We'll move it somewhere else later. Then we got to go ahead and drag and drop the assets we want to use for this. So again, we know the ground one's right here for the tile set floor. Let's go ahead, drag and drop that into there. All right, same folder. I'm just going to keep it in the same section here. Might take a second because it needs to import every single one of those, which takes a little bit. Let's wait for that to finish. There we go. As you can see, it puts them all in here. Now this isn't necessarily where we're going to want it. So what we could do is we could create a folder for this area. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to right click, create folder. Let's call this tile sets. All right, and then what we can do is select the top one here, hold down the shift key, and then select the one way on the bottom. All right, make sure you're not selecting any of our other sprites. Once we have that, we can go ahead and then just drag and drop them into where we want to put them. All right, let that load, and there we go. Awesome. All right, so now that we have this here, if you remember, if we are on the tile map ground, it will put it on the tile map layer. So if we wanted our ground to be somewhere else on a different layer, then we could go ahead and change it here. All right, let's go ahead and create the rest of the palettes though. So we have the ground one. Let's go ahead and create another one. This one can be the nature one. All right, we have nature. Let's go ahead and create that. Let's select the tile sets, select folder. All right, then let's drag and drop the nature one in there. There we go. Select tile sets again. Let that load. All right, there we go. Looks good. Looks like it has all the nature stuff in it. Awesome. Let's create the other ones now. So we have ground, nature. We need the houses one. Let's do that. Let's call it houses. Create. Tile sets. Select folder. Let's drag and drop the houses one, which should be right here, I think. Let's go ahead, drag and drop that into there. It's going to be looking for where you want to put it. You can just hit select folder. Let that load. Might take a second. This one's pretty big. It has 648 items. That's a lot. Let's let that load. Almost there. And there we go. Awesome. Okay, we have this one here as well. Perfect. So now we have the ground, houses, nature. We have a couple more now. Let's create another one. Let's go ahead. And this one we can do the inside walls. And I'm going to go ahead, hit create. Select tile sets, select folder, drag and drop the inside walls, select folder, let that load. Awesome. All right, one more now. Let's go ahead and create another one. Let's go ahead and do inside floor. Go ahead, hit create, tile sets, select folder. Let's go ahead, drag and drop the tile sets floor into there. Select folder, let that load. And looking good. And looks like there we go. All right, so now we have all of our palettes selected and all of our tile maps. Awesome. All right, so far so good. All right, let's go ahead and get started creating some of the example scenes. So let's go ahead and make sure you are on the tile map ground right there. Then let's go ahead and go to the ground palette. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and start off with the village scene. So we're going to start off using the dark sand color right here for the ground. All right, it's going to be this one here. All right, make sure you are selecting it and then also doing the square tool right here. All right, then what we're going to do is we're going to create a very big square around our little camera right here. So I'm going to go from all the way up here and do about that size. Awesome. Now it's not going to be this big, but just so we have the background filled, that's what I want. Awesome. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and fill it out with trees real quick so we know where we want the edges to be. So let's go ahead and go to nature. Let's go to the nature set. Let's select the tree we want to use, which is going to be this one here. Awesome. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go from the corner up here and I'm going to make all of it trees. Make sure it's covering it completely. So it should be, not that one. Sure, it should be about there. We can delete the bottom part if we want as well. Just go to the eraser tool and just slide it on that. Make sure you're on the ground layer though. All right, awesome. Oh, looks like I knocked a little bit of it. There we go. All right, so perfect. That's what I want. All right, now we can actually carve out where we want the actual screen to be. So let's go ahead and do that as well. Make sure we're still on the nature, both ones, nature here and nature here. Let's select everything we want to delete. So I want a simple square around where our player is going to be able to walk around and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and do something like all of the ones from here to here for the whole village. Okay, it's not going to be too big, but just big enough. Let's go ahead and delete key. There we go. Perfect. All right, now inside of there, we also want to have an area for the path. So let's go ahead and remove two of these trees from here. Okay. Make sure we're surrounding it. There we go. Let's go ahead, delete key as well. Perfect. Awesome. All right, now let's go ahead and move on to the next part. We're going to want to make the actual path. But before we make the path, we can make the actual houses first. So let's do that. Let's go ahead. Let's go to the tile map houses. Let's go to the houses palette. Awesome. Let's create each house. I want to start off with this red building here to be the dojo, which is also going to be the shop basically. So let's go ahead and use the square tool and highlight the whole house. Perfect. Let's put where we want the house. I'm going to do somewhere right about here, I think would be a good spot. All right, perfect. Then I also want a couple other houses. So let's go ahead and make sure we have a couple. So I'm going to use this one here. Let's put this house right next to that one there. And I think that should be good. I just want enough air room for the road, which I think the road will be good with here to here in the middle. All right, I think that'll be okay. Let's put another house below it. Let's put a house right here. Might need to lower that a little bit actually. I'm going to Control Z that. Let's put this lower house right here. Awesome. All right, and let's go ahead and use another type of house like that one there. I'm going to put this one below this one right here. And let's make another one in the same area. I need to make that one a little higher up. Let's try there. Okay, awesome. I might need to move the dojo house a little bit to the right just so it fits in a little better. Let's go ahead and grab that. Use the move tool right here and just move it on over. Maybe we could do somewhere like that. It doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as it's centered, that's all I care about. Awesome. All right. Other than that, let's go ahead and add some things to the houses. Let's go ahead and do the house above. Let's add some windows and fireplaces to things. So I'm going to use one of the windows right here. I'm going to add that on top of that house there. Let's add one of the other windows and put it over here. Maybe this fireplace we can add in the corner right over here, and another one on this one as well. Perfect. All right. Maybe we could add some fences to this as well. Let's use the nature one for that. So let's go ahead to nature. Make sure we are on this one as well. Let's add the right fence line. I think it's this one right here. Let's add a fence line going in there, and then another one here, another one here, and another one over here. Awesome. Let's connect them now using the connector ones. One there, and then another over here, and another over there. Awesome. All right, looking better. I like it. We could also add a sign on top of the dojo. Let's do that. We could do the sword sign. I think it looks pretty cool. Let's add that guy right over here. Make sure we are on the above house one though, or it's not going to show it above the house. Just like that. Awesome. All right, perfect. Now some other things we could do. We could add some maybe like little barrels next to other houses. Let's add a one right here for this one, and then another one on this one. Awesome. And there's most of our village. Awesome. Now we just need the paths in between all the buildings and heading out of the village. Let's add that. Let's go back to the ground layer. Let's go back to the ground tile set. Let's go ahead and first use the regular path here to direct where the path is going to go. I want it to go from here. And then of course I want it to connect to each house and also connect, all the way through. Connect to here. And we want to connect all the other houses as well. So let's go ahead, connect there, connect here. Awesome. Now we need the basically outer areas of the path. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and make this all the way from here to here. Let's go ahead and do that as well over here. Let's do that over here, and over here. Awesome. Let's make the curves now for the path. So I think that should be these little ones over here. So this one on this one, this one on this one, same one over there for that one, and this one for that one. And I think we need the same thing for the bottom one. So let's go ahead, add one over there and over there. Let's connect all the paths now. Let's go ahead and do that. So that for there. Let's do the ones over here. Awesome. Same thing up here. And we need the one going up here as well. Awesome. We need the bottom ones here to go all the way down. And of course we're going to need it for these ones as well. This one we can use the curve one, I think. Or no, we don't have to use the curve one. We can just use, I think it's the other one. Is it this one over here? I don't think so. I think we need the curve one for these ones. There we go. Let's go ahead, add that for there. We could do the same thing on this side, except if we reverse it. Let's do the curved one over there, curved over there, bottom one over here, and then going up one on this side as well. Awesome. All right, I like it so far. Now remember, you can customize this to whatever you like, but I think this will do good for what we're going to be working with. All right, so far so good on the village. All right, let's go ahead and continue now to the shop one. Let's go ahead and do that right above up here. So let's go ahead into our tile set for the inside floor. Make sure we are using the ground one. All right, let's use this yellow one right here. And we're going to use the square tool, and I'm going to go up here a little more. We just need a small square up here to represent what we're going to be doing. All right, awesome. Now inside of here, we're going to go ahead. We're going to do the walls one now, so inside walls, and we got to change this to nature. All right, let's use these walls over here. Let's go ahead and add each wall. So we're going to use the side wall on this side. We're going to use the opposite direction one over here. The top direction one over here. And the bottom direction one over here. Awesome. Let's give it the correct corners. It's going to be a curved one over here. Use a curved one over here. A curved one over here. And a curved one over here. Awesome. All right, now we need the door path. So let's go ahead and make the door areas, which should be these two right here. So we have one going here, one going here, and then we can go ahead and just erase the middle one. Awesome. All right, now we can add some things to the store. Let's go ahead and do that. Make sure you're still in the nature one. Let's go ahead and go to the houses one. Actually, you know what? We can just be in the house layer as well. All right, so we can add some things to here. Let's add the weapon barrel, which is right over here. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. I'm going to put that up there for one, put that up there for one. I'm also going to make a little area for what separates the customers and also the owner of the shop. So we can do that for there. And is that one connecting well? Yes, it is. Okay. So we have that for that one. Now, what else could we add? We could also add some other things in there, like these little areas to practice your new weapons with. Let's add those there. Let's add another one on this side as well. Let's go ahead and add maybe some extra stuff for the table over here. We could add that. All right, we could add one there for that. We could add maybe some boxes and stuff. Let's add that. Maybe we'll put one box up here, another box over here. Awesome. All right, so I think that looks pretty good for the shop. Kind of gives it exactly what we want. Now, if you wanted to add anything else, you totally can too. That's completely up to you. You know, one thing I might add actually to the outside is these weapon holders, so we know that this is where you can kind of buy weapons other than the sign. So let's add that. Make sure we're on the houses. All right, I'm going to add just these things up here. Let's add one like over here, and then let's add another one over here for the outside as well. Awesome. I think it looks pretty cool. All right, so far so good. So now we have the shop and these extra two things that we added below in next to the dojo. Awesome. So make sure you have that all down. We should be done with the village and then also the shop. Awesome. So far so good. All right, let's go ahead and move on to making the forest scene now. Let's go ahead and do that. It's going to be right next to here or over here. So let's go ahead and start off with the ground layer. Let's go ahead and go to the ground, and we're going to be using this set right here. So let's go ahead and start off with the base ground layer, which I think is going to be the green. So let's go ahead and make that green right there. Let's make a pretty big square again, same thing. So let's go ahead and make it pretty big. We can make it a little bigger than that probably. Pretty similar to what we just made. Let's go ahead and do that. Awesome. All right, next thing we need is the trees. So let's switch to the nature. Let's go ahead, go to the nature tile set. Awesome. Let's add the tree one right here for the darker tree. Let's go ahead and add this in. And what I want to do is I want to add that whole thing, make sure it is completely covered. Did we cover it all? Nope. Let me do it again. Let's go ahead and completely cover it. All right, perfect. It's okay if the top one's a little messed up. We could add more if we want to, just to finish that off right there. There we go. Awesome. All right, now let's go ahead and cut out what we want. So I'm going to go ahead. Let's go into the move tool, or the select tool right here. Let's go ahead and let's do about that. Doesn't need to be a bunch, but just enough so we're cutting 2 trees out. All right, that looks pretty good to me. Let's go ahead and delete key. There we go. Let's go ahead and make room for the path, which should be somewhere in the middle. We could do these parts right here. I'm going to cut in about 3 trees deep. There we go. Awesome. All right, looks good. Now one more thing we could do is add some area to walk around, like dirt area. Let's do that as well. let's go ahead, go back to the ground. Let's go to ground. All right, let's go ahead and add some of this for the dirt area. So let's go ahead and start off with some corners at the top. Make sure we're on the right one. Tile map ground. Oh, I don't have the square one. There we go. So we need a corner over there, a corner over here, a corner over here, and a corner on this side. Awesome. Let's go ahead and make this one go all the way over here. Let's make another one down here, another one over here, and another one over here. Awesome. Let's fill out the middle. Perfect. And let's get this side over here. So let's go ahead and give it a corner piece, which is going to be this one, I think. And yep, we could do that one there. Now, do we have 3 by 3 on this side over here? 1, 2, 3. Yep. Should be 1, 2, and 3. So now we need one more on this side. Should be the opposite one, which is right there. There we go. Let's go ahead and stretch that out. Something like that. And let's go ahead. Awesome. All right, and how does that look compared to that? Looks like we went all the way, so we can go ahead and do that as well on this side. All right, perfect. All right, awesome. Now we can add some more nature things in here. Looks good so far. Let's go ahead, go to nature. Nature over here, we could add some rocks. Let's add some of these rocks over here. I'm gonna add one over here, one over here. Let's add some big rocks as well. Let's add one over here, one over here, one over here, and one over here. Awesome. Now remember, you can add some more stuff in here if you want. That's completely up to you, but looking good so far. Awesome. All right, make sure you got the forest scene created. All right, let's go ahead and make the final scene. That's going to be the cave one. So let's go ahead and move on to the left or right over here, right next to the forest. All right, now let's go ahead and change to our ground. Let's go ahead, do our ground set, and we're going to be using the base one of this one over here. So let's go ahead and select that. I'm going to use the rectangle tool, and for this scene it's going to be more of a skinnier rectangle, so something like this. All right, make sure we got that in there. Then we're going to go ahead and cut out the areas that we want. So let's go ahead and use the one right here, and somewhere around the middle we could do 3 again. We're going to add the opening for it, and then it doesn't have to be as big as the last one, but similar would be nice. Let's go ahead and do something like this. Maybe a little more. And then we're going to go ahead and make it again over here with a little bit of a separation, because this is where the boss battle is going to be. And again, we want to make it match up, so we'll do it like that. I think that should be good. Looks like it's a little, that looks okay to me. All right, that looks pretty good. Now we need to give it all the corners, so let's go ahead and add those. So we're going to add all of these over here, these over here, these over here, or maybe not that part there. Let's go ahead and start from over here though. We're going to give it that corner one, which should be the one right here, and the lower one, which should be here. Don't forget the lower part on this side. We're going to add some of those over there. We're going to add some of these over here. One there. And then some on this side as well. Awesome. All right, now we need the downward one over here. And I think we have a corner one on this. And I think we have another one of those over there. We have one over here. Another one over there. We have an up one over here as well. All right, looks good over there. We need another one over here for there, in the opposite direction for that one. And we need some going up that way, and we just need the flats and the ones over here, so we need one there. We need one over here for that. We need the top ones over here, the bottom ones over here, bottom piece over here, top piece over here, the direction up over here, direction down over here. All right, and this side as well. We're gonna need that over there and that over, oops, that over there. Looks like I messed that one up. There we go. All right, and the up direction right here. Awesome. All right, so far looking good. We got all those down. We got these down. Awesome. All right, so the cave scene's done. Make sure you have that done as well. Now again, make sure you have the cave scene, the forest scene, the village scene, and also the shop scene. All right, looking good so far. I like it. Don't forget to save. All right, so in this section, we're going to go ahead and add all the player UI. So we're going to start off creating the UI canvas, then we're going to go ahead and add the item images, then we're going to add some text counters for it as well. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started. But before we do, let's go ahead and get all the art we're going to be using. So let's go into the art folder and then go into the Ninja Adventure Pack and keep going until we get to a couple different things here. We can start off in the items folder. Let's go ahead into the treasure one, and we're going to want the coin right over here. So let's go ahead, scroll up so we can see the art folder. Let's drag and drop the coin, and we can use the one with multiple sprites, the coin 2. I'm going to go ahead, put it there. Awesome. Let's go back to the items. Let's go to weapons now. And what we want here is just the bow. So let's go ahead and go to bow, and we're going to add the arrow. Okay, so let's go ahead, drag and drop that in the art folder as well. Awesome. All right, now we want a health potion, so let's go ahead and find that. I think that's going to be in the items as well. Let's see where that is. It should be in the potion, and we want the one with the heart in it, which is this one right here, the life pot. All right, I'm going to drag and drop that into the art folder as well. Let's go ahead, slide that up. There we go. Awesome. All right, and now we just need the actual hearts itself, and I think that's going to be, if we go back to the Ninja Adventure and go into the hub, there we go. There's the hearts, okay? So let's go ahead, drag and drop those in there as well. Awesome. All right, double click on it. All right, let's go ahead and crop everything the right way. Let's select the arrow first. We're going to go ahead, give it a 16. Keep it at single though this time. Let's go to filter mode to point. And remember the format, RGBA 32-bit. Select somewhere else, hit save. Awesome. Let's do the coin one. This one's going to be multiple. This one, let's do 16. Let's go ahead, format 32-bit. Don't forget the filter mode to point as well. All right, let's go to sprite editor, apply. Let's see if the 16 by 16 is the right size. We might need to make it a little smaller for this. Looks like I'm gonna be too big for this one. Let's go ahead and try maybe 10. And 10 and 10 should be okay. Awesome, let's hit slice. All right, hit apply. All right, looking good. Close that. Let's open that up. Looks good to me. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and do the other ones now. Let's do the actual heart. Again, 16. Multiple for this one. Filter mode point. Format RGBA 32-bit. Sprite editor. Hit apply. All right, let's go ahead and slice this. Looks like 10 and 10 too small. Let's try 16 and 16 again. This one might be good. Yep, looks like this is it. Slice that. Hit apply. Awesome. I'm going to close that up. All right, one more now for this. Keep it at single. Change the pixels per unit to 16. Let's go to the point. Format 32-bit. Select somewhere else. Hit save. And there we go. Awesome. All right, everything should be formatted correctly. So far, so good. All right, let's continue. So now what we're going to do is make a canvas. So let's zoom in a little bit to our screen over here. Awesome. Let's go ahead, close up the grid. We're going to right-click, go to UI, go to Canvas. There we go. All right, we need to set a couple things in the canvas, so select Canvas. On the right, we're going to go ahead, do render mode. We're going to set that to screen space camera. Drag and drop our current camera into there. There we go. Let's go ahead and set the UI scale mode right over here. Set that to scale with screen size. Awesome. All right, perfect. So that'll be good. That makes everything scale correctly for our canvas. All right, looking good. Let's go ahead now and create some UI objects for it. So let's go ahead, right click on it. Let's go over to 2D object, or actually no, go to UI and then go to image, okay? Because we're working in a canvas, so we can't just make objects from 2D and 3D. We have to use the UI area over here. So let's go ahead, add an image there. All right, so we're gonna be making the hearts first. So let's call this H1 for heart 1, okay? I'm gonna go ahead now and open this up. And what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna start it off with the empty heart and then fill another child object as the regular heart. So let's go ahead, drop that in there. Awesome. Let's go ahead, Control D on this. And I'm going to put this into here. And what we're going to do for this one, this H1 parentheses one, simply enough, we're just going to go ahead, drag and drop the whole heart there. And there you go. Perfect. Let's align this correctly where we want it. I'm going to use the move tool up here. I'm going to put it in the top left corner. We might make it a little smaller because it's a little big. Let's do that as well. Let's do like a 0.7 and a 0.7 for Y. So Y and X, 0.7. Oops. There we go. Let's see how that looks in game view. All right, we can move it up a little more. Maybe we'll put it somewhere like this. Go to game, and looks good. Awesome. All right, now let's go ahead and just duplicate this 2 more times. Let's duplicate this, and then let's move this guy over here. Duplicate it again, and move this one over here. All right, so what I want to do actually is I want the one all the way on the left to be 3, and this one to be 2, and this one to be 1. So let's change this one here. Let's change this one to 3. There we go. The middle one here, let's go ahead and change that to 2. And then we can keep the last one as 1, but we want to get rid of that parenthesis. So let's get rid of that. And there we go. Awesome. All right, there's our hearts. Perfect. Let's go ahead now and do the rest of them. So we can go ahead and just duplicate the third one right here, Control D. Hold down the Control key and move it down with the Move tool. All right, now let's go ahead and go inside of it. Delete that original heart we had. All right. I'm going to take this and move it down also so it's below, but still inside the canvas. We're going to change this here, and we're going to change it to, let's do coin UI. And let's go ahead, drag and drop our coin UI into there. I'm going to use this one right here. There we go. Perfect. Looks pretty good too. Now we need some text for it, so let's go ahead and we're going to right click on it. We're going to go down to UI, and we're going to go up to the text mesh pro. Now it's going to ask you to import the essentials. You don't need to use this extras one, you just need to do the essentials one, okay? So go ahead, do that. Let it load, might take a second or two. Awesome. Now we can go ahead and use text. I'm going to close that out. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move this over a little bit. And let's use the rectangle tool right here and stretch it out a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and just do something like that and something like that. Let's go ahead and center the text. We can keep it on the left side, but I want it in the middle like that. Perfect. Let's make it a little bigger too with the font size. I'm going to change that to, let's see how 60 looks. And let's just change it to 0 for now as well. Let's see how that looks in game. We can make it maybe a little bigger. Let's do 70. And let's also make it bold. There we go. Perfect. All right, I like it. Now one more thing we could do is change the color. So let's go to scene, and let's take this little color thing right here where we can choose which color from another object. I'm going to just make it the background color like that. Okay, awesome. And you can make it whatever color you want. That's completely up to you. I think it looks good like this. All right, next thing we're going to do, I'm going to go back to Move tool. I'm going to take that coin UI, Control D, and I'm going to hold down the Control key while moving it. And below it, let's change this name to this one. So let's go ahead and make this one, let's make it Arrow UI. And we'll do lowercase a at the beginning. There we go. All right, let's go ahead, drag and drop the arrow itself in there. All right, and as you can tell, it looks a little messed up. I kind of want it to go up and down instead of side to side. So let's fix that. Or actually, we could keep it side to side. That's fine too. Let's just go ahead and mess with the Y value though. Let's make that a 5 and see how that looks. Might be still a little stretched. Yep. Let's change that to a 4. And there you go. That looks good to me. Awesome. Now we could move it up a little bit because it's a little low. Oh, we did move the text. So to fix that, let's just go ahead and delete the text. And what we're going to do is Control D on the text above in the coin and drag and drop that into the arrow. And then simply enough, we can just center the X and Y and then just move it over like it was to match up with that one. If we need to double check the value of that X value, we can just take that, Control C, and then paste it in for there. And there you go. Now it's equal to the one above it. Awesome. Now, of course, I don't really want the color to be that color. So let's go ahead and use that color tool. And let's make it like the gray of the arrow. There we go. Let's see how that looks. And looks good. Awesome. All right. perfect. Now one thing we could do is we could maybe raise this up a little bit. I might do that. So we could go a little higher up, maybe like that. All right, awesome. All right, now let's go ahead and do the last one. Let's do the potion one. So let's go ahead, right click, Control D. All right, let's get the next one, hold down Control again. And let's go ahead, drag and drop the image we want to use, which is that potion image right over here. And looks like, again, it's a little scrunched up. So I'm going to go ahead, delete the text. Let's go ahead and fix that. So let's make this 0.7.7. And looks like it's a little big, so we could maybe shrink the whole thing, or you just move it down a little bit. See how that looks? Yeah, it's still a little big, I think. We are zoomed in, though, a little bit, I think. Yep. Let's go back to scene. Let's just use the rectangle tool and make it a little smaller. Not too much smaller, but that should be good. Awesome. Let's center it up with the ones above it. Let's copy that X value, paste it in there. There we go. Let's go ahead and do the same thing with the text. Control D, drag and drop it into the arrow, or we didn't rename it. This one's the Potion UI, so go ahead and do that as well. Potion UI. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead, put this down where we want it, right with the potion. Awesome. And let's change the color of it. Let's change it to the color of the heart in the middle of that. I think it's right there. Perfect. Awesome. All right, looking good so far. Let's see how that looks in game view. I like it. All right, things are looking good. All right, so in this section, we're going to go ahead and add all the items in Shop UI. We're going to start off creating items for the key and fruit we're going to collect throughout the game. Then we're also going to go ahead and add some shop buttons to purchase some items. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So first thing we're going to do is create the two different images that we're going to have, such as the fruit and key, which are going to be right below over here. So let's go ahead and add those. Let's go to scene view. All right, let's go ahead and drag and drop what we're going to need for those. So first let's go into the art folder. Then let's go back into the Ninja Adventure Pack and into it again. Now let's go ahead and find what we need. Now we're going to need the key and the fruit. So let's go ahead and find the key. I think that might be in items, maybe in treasure. Yep, silver key. Let's go ahead and drag and drop that into where we want it in the art folder. There we go. All right, now we're also going to need another one. That's going to be the fruit. So let's go ahead and find that. That might be in food. Now I don't think we actually have an actual fruit, but what I think looks like a fruit is going to be this nut, this little red one right here. So let's use that. You can use any other one if you want as well. That's completely up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and drag the red nut over here into art. There we go. Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and make sure the images are cropped correctly. I'm going to close all the other ones here. All right. Let's go into the first one. Let's go ahead, make that single, make the pixel per unit 16. Then let's go over to the filter mode, make it point, change the format to 32-bit. Let's go ahead, select somewhere else, hit save, and there we go. Awesome. Let's do it now for the silver key. Same thing. Make sure it's single, 16. Let's go ahead, do point, and let's go ahead and make that 32-bit. Awesome. Let's go ahead, save that. Perfect. All right, so now we have both of those set. Awesome. Now let's go ahead and make the actual image. So what we can do inside of our canvas that's already open, we can go ahead and just duplicate one of the ones down here, like the potion. Let's go ahead and duplicate that. I'm going to move it down here. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away the text because we're only going to have one fruit or one key at a time. I'm going to change the name, of course. Let's change this to Fruit UI. All right, then let's go ahead and drag and drop the fruit we want to use. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and duplicate the one we want below it. This one's going to be the key UI. So let's go ahead, do key UI. All right, let's go ahead, drag and drop the key UI into the sprite for that, and there we go. Awesome. Now throughout the game, we're not going to start off with either one of these items, so make sure to disable each one, just like that, and just like that. Awesome. All right, so far so good. All right, let's go ahead and make the shop UI buttons now. Those are going to be pretty easy also. So I'm going to go ahead and close out all these. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to right click on canvas. We're going to create an empty, and we're going to call this shop buttons. All right, inside of the empty shop buttons we have, we're going to right click. We're going to go down to UI. we're going to go ahead and add an image, or not an image, we're actually going to add a button. All right, which can be right there, perfect. Let's stretch this button out to make it look like a square, or maybe a tall rectangle. Something like that should be good. Awesome. Let's go ahead and put this in the right arrow we want it. So I'm going to move the X value down, or actually to the side. Let's do something like -75. Awesome. And let's go ahead and lower the Y position. Let's put it somewhere like there, which is like -141, or wherever you want on the lower part of the screen. All right, so we're going to go ahead, call this one button, and we'll call it arrow because we want to be able to purchase the arrows. Awesome. All right, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put an image of the arrow and then the number. We can use the same text inside of it, that's fine. I'm going to change this to 5 because it will cost 5 coins for an arrow. Let's go ahead and lower that down. If we can use that right there, yep. I'm going to put it somewhere like that. Awesome. I'm going to also increase the font. Let's do 30 and see if we can still see it. Let's see how that looks in game view. Awesome. Maybe a little bigger. We could do 35. All right, let's make it bold. And let's change it to the same color as the coin. So I'm going to go ahead, make it the same color as the coin counter color right there. Perfect. All right, looking good. I like it. Awesome. All right, let's keep going. So let's go ahead now and take the button itself, Control D. Let's go ahead and move it over. So we're going to make this just +75. Awesome. All right. Now let's go ahead and make the actual image of what we're purchasing here. So in the button arrow, we're going to right click. Let's go ahead, go to UI. Let's go to image. All right. And I'm going to make this a little smaller. Something like that should be good. We can center it out later. This one here is going to be the arrow. So we already have the arrow sprite. Let's drag and drop that into there. Now we need to, of course, make it look good still. Maybe a little bit more like that. All right. Let's center it out, make the X value 0, and then we can lower the Y value down a little bit. Awesome. And you know what? Instead of reformatting everything and centering it, we can just go ahead and delete that button again and duplicate this button again. There we go. Change that -75 to a +75. Awesome. And then we can open it up. In the image for it, let's go ahead, drag and drop the fruit we want. All right, we can go ahead and reformat that. Let's go ahead, zero it out for the X value. We could lower it down. Oh, we're not doing the fruit actually. Remember, this one's for the potion. Whoops. There we go. Awesome. All right, and we could stretch this one out a little bit. There we go. And let's change the name. Instead of button arrow, let's call this button potion. Awesome. All right, looking good. Now another thing we could do is actually add some maybe boldness to our text. Instead of it just being a plain color, we could actually give it something cool where we give it like an outline. So let's do that for this as well. We can also change the other ones. So if we scroll down, we can see this outline thing, and we can give our text some outline. So let's go ahead and make the outline something like, let's see what 0.3 looks like, maybe a little more, 0.5. All right, and then let's make the actual dilation of it a little bigger. Let's do something like 0.30, 0.40 maybe. That looks pretty good. 0.40 or 4. All right, I like it. And you can customize that to whatever you want as well. I think that looks pretty good for what we got so far. Looks a little blurry. Maybe we can make it less blurry. There we go. Awesome. We can adjust some more. Maybe the thickness, or what if we dilate it a little bit more and make the outline a little bigger? It's still a little blurry, but I think it'll do for now. All right, awesome. Perfect. All right, so far so good. All right, last thing we got to do, of course, is disable these two, because remember, we're not going to be using these throughout the game. We're only going to use them in a specific location. So let's go ahead and turn off the up top shop buttons right here, not the original ones inside of it. So make sure you turn off this one here. And there we go. Awesome. All right, so far so good. All right, so in this section, we're going to go ahead and create the scene change UI now. Now we're going to do this by adding a panel that's going to darken and then lighten every time we walk into a new room or location. Then we're going to go ahead and add the animation to make that into effect. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So let's go ahead and start off creating the panel for this. So inside our canvas, we're going to right click on it. We're going to go down to UI, then we're going to go to panel. Then we're going to go ahead and make sure the panel is covering the entire screen. We might need to stretch it out a little bit, so let's go to scene view. Let's go ahead and just lower it down a little bit here, 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 whoops, and over here. Awesome. Let's also rename this to panel switch scene. Awesome. Let's go ahead and make this perfectly invisible first, just like that. Awesome. All right, then from there, we're going to go ahead and give it an animation. We're going to right click. We're going to go ahead, or actually, we're going to click on it, and then we're going to go to animation. We're going to hit create. If you don't have the animation and animator tab, then go ahead up to window, go to the animations here, and you can go ahead and select these and then drag and drop them into over here. All right, but back to this, we're on animation. We're selecting the panel switch scene. Let's go to create. Let's call this switch scene idle. All right, and then let's make sure to put it in the right folder right here, switch scene idle. Awesome. All right, that's our first one. Our first one is just going to be idle, so nothing's going to happen. Okay, now one thing to note though is if we want anything to be covered or not covered, like if we wanted basically the hearts and money and all this stuff to be in front of it, then we could go ahead and put this above it. That's up to you, but we can keep it here to cover everything out. So you know what, I might at least put it up here so it's at the top, so it's the first thing that's going to cover. Okay, awesome. So let's keep that there. We have our first one. Now we need to create another animation, which is the actual switching animation. So right over here on the left, we're going to go ahead and create new clip. We're going to go ahead and call this switch scene, capital S. Make sure we're in the animations. Yep. All right, now for switch scene, we're going to go ahead at first. We want to darken it all the way. So we're going to red button it and go over here to the color of the panel. I'm going to go ahead and just make it completely over there. And we're going to make it blacken out just like that. Awesome. All right, then let's do about a minute of fade time. Okay, or not a minute, a second. So let's go ahead and lower that all the way down. Awesome. So basically when our animation starts and we switch the scene, what we're going to have is that. Okay, now you can make it longer or shorter if you want. Maybe I'll make it a little longer. Maybe I'll do like 120. All right, just like that. Awesome. All right, so far so good. We got that there. Perfect. Now another thing we need to do in the animator is we need to actually automatically make it go back to idle when it's done playing. Okay, to do that, we just right click on switch scene idle, make transition, and then we make another one going backwards. We also have to give it a boolean over here in parameters, so not layers but parameters. Go to this little plus sign, go to bool. We'll just call this switch. Then for the forward arrow right here, we have to go over here to conditions and then add switch is true, and then for the going back one, we're going to make switch is false. All right, awesome. So now once this plays, it's going to instantly go back when it's done. Okay, awesome. All right, I'm going to go back to project. All right, so far so good. All right, so in this section, we're going to go ahead and create all the NPC conversations. We're going to start off adding those NPC conversations to the UI. Then we're going to go ahead and edit them to best fit for the NPC's conversation. Let's go ahead, jump right in, and get started. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to be creating the NPC conversation. Let's go ahead and start off creating a panel for that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to right click on our current canvas. We're going to go down to UI. We're going to go to panel. All right, now this panel specifically isn't going to be as tall as the whole entire screen. We're going to have it something about maybe this height. All right, awesome. Now we are though going to change out the panel for a specific background type. So let's go ahead and find all the images we're going to need for these. So let's go into the art. Let's go and do the adventure pack. Keep going. Awesome. So I think it's going to be in one of these. I think it's the hub one for dialogue. Okay. Yep. So we're going to be using this one here. It has a box for which character it is and also the area for the text. Okay. So let's go ahead and drag and drop that into our art folder. Awesome. Now we need, of course, the characters we want to use. So let's go back to the hub. Let's go back to Ninja Adventure. Let's go to the actors. All right. Let's go to characters. And the specific ones I'm going to be using, I'm going to go down to the villagers, and I think it's going to be villager number 2. Yep, I'm going to use this for one of the NPCs. So let's go ahead, drag and drop that into the art. Awesome. And we can also drag and drop the sprite sheet as well. We'll use that later on. I'm going to say keep both. All right. Then we need one more for another NPC. This is going to be the guy who's going to have our quest, and I think it is one of the old man. Maybe it's old man 2. Nope. I think it's old man 1 maybe. Nope. It might be the ninja. So let me see where that is. Orange ninja. I think it was red ninja 2. Nope, not that one. You can use any of them. It really doesn't matter. That's completely up to you. I thought I saw one that looks pretty cool. We could use maybe master. Yeah, we could use the master guy. I'm going to use this one. Okay, so let's go ahead, drag and drop this into our art folder. Keep both. Drag and drop this other one as well. Keep both. Awesome. All right, so far so good. Let's go into our art folder. Now we're only going to be using these 2 ones for this section, so let's go ahead and edit these. Oh, and of course the one over here for the dialogue. So I'm going to edit this one first, 16 by 16. Let's do point, format 32-bit. All right, save that one. Let's do the next one, single 16-bit, format point, and then the 32-bit. Awesome. Go ahead, save that. That's good for that one and this one. Awesome. Let's do the dialogue one now. So again, this one is going to be at single. It's going to be 16. Filter mode point, and then format 32-bit. Awesome. Select somewhere else, hit save, and there we go. Awesome. So make sure you have all those. So far so good. All right, let's go ahead and continue. Now we're going to go ahead and select the panel we have here, and I'm going to change this to panel NPC. Could do convo for conversation, and I'm just going to say 1 because this is going to be for the NPC 1 guy. It looks like I didn't put no NPC. I should put 1 actually after NPC so we know which NPC this is. NPC convo. Awesome. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to drag and drop the dialogue into there, and we should get something like this. Now we do want to make it visible, so let's go ahead and change that color all the way over. All right, awesome. All right, I think this is a pretty good size. Maybe we can make it a little taller. Awesome. So we have a couple areas. We have where the image of the person talking to right here. We have an image up here for the name, and then of course all the text over here. All right, so let's go ahead and start doing that for the first conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on it. I'm going to go to UI. I'm going to go to image. So we're going to have this for the face image. Let's go ahead, drag and drop that for this one here. I'm going to go ahead and move this over there, and we'll go ahead, pull it down there, and then we can match it to the corners with the rectangle tool. I'm going to do something like that for there, that for there, that for there, and that for there. Let's see how that looks in game view. It looks pretty good to me. Awesome. All right, let's go back to scene view. All right, let's go ahead and add the text now. So let's go ahead, right click on panel again. Let's go to UI. Let's go to text. All right, and let's go ahead and give it some text that we need. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I can at least put 2 lines of text. I think this should be good enough if we just move it up a little bit. So if I move it up to there, and then I can move the box down to there, I think we should be okay. I am going to move it all the way, or at least a little bit of room over there on that side, and then a little bit over here. Awesome. I'm going to change the color of this text to just all black. There we go. Maybe I won't make it as bold as the other one, so we could turn off bold. Or do we have bold on? Yeah. I might lower maybe the thickness of the border down a little bit. And I think I'm going to keep it just a little bit, but not too much, because I still want the other images to have a little bit on there, okay? I think that's okay. Now you can adjust this as you want. All right, let's go ahead and give this the text that we want though. I'm going to make this say something like, I hear you can buy arrows and health potions at the shop up north. All right, awesome. That might help the player out. Perfect. And I think that looks pretty good. Now we also need the name up here, so let's go ahead, Control D on that. And what I'm going to do is, of course, take away this. I'm just going to call this villager, we call it villager 1. All right, and we're gonna of course move it where we want it. We can make this one a lot smaller, so let's go ahead and make this one like 25 maybe even less than that. What does 20 look like? Let's go ahead and shrink the box over there, and of course move that somewhere like there. Let's see how that looks in game view, and I think it looks pretty good. Awesome. Alright, maybe we can bold that one to make it look a little better, and yep, we can move it up a little bit, I think. Awesome. How does that look? Alright, awesome. I think it looks pretty good for what we're doing. Perfect. Alright, awesome. So that's the villager 1 one, and eventually we're going to have a script that basically makes this appear once we get into contact with the villager. Alright, awesome. So let's go ahead and disable this one here. Let's scroll up, turn it off, and close it up. Alright, so far so good. Alright, let's go ahead and do the next one. This one's going to be for the quest villager, where we can go ahead and accept the quest or deny it and eventually accomplish it. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and create it after this one. So Control D on the current one we have. Let's make this one active. Now we're going to have 3 different ones for this because we're going to have 3 different types of conversations. Of course, accepting it, continuing it, and then also whether or not we complete it. Okay, so let's go ahead and change the name to this. Let's call this panel quest 1. All right, this is the first conversation we can have. So let's of course change the image that we're using because this is not the same guy that we're going to be talking to for the quest. I'm going to change it out for that one. All right, we can also change the name. Let's make the name, let's call it, I'm just going to say old man. All right, I'm going to do capital M for that. Old man, awesome. And let's change the text. So I'm going to say, let's say if you, capital if you, oops, if you bring me back fruit from the forest, I will give you a key. All right, awesome. Now we can add a little yes or no button right there to accept the quest or say no to it. So let's go ahead and do that as well. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go ahead, go to UI. Let's go to button, wherever that would be. There it is. All right, we're going to have button Y for yes. And then we'll have button N for no. Let's make button Y first. Let's go ahead and move this where I want it. I want to put it right over here. Let's go ahead, open that button up. Inside of it, we can put the word yes. All right, let's shrink the actual button size a little bit so it can just fit the text. Oh, looks like I still have the text. I don't have the actual button selected. There we go. Now I have the button selected. All right, we have the yes button. And let's change the color of it to something. I'm going to change it just to the same color as the coin. All right, maybe we could do the lighter one actually. It might look better if we do a lighter color like that. There we go. Awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead, put the yes right there. Let's see how that looks. I like it. And then we can have a no button as well. So let's go ahead, Control D, move that over. And let's go ahead, change the name. Instead of button Y, we're going to do button N for no. Awesome. Change the text inside of it. And let's put the word no. Awesome. All right, so we have this one here. All right, and then we're going to have another one after that one. So this one's to make sure whether or not we are accepting the quest. Then we're going to have one basically where we go talk to him inside the quest. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to duplicate this, Control D. I'm going to disable this one here. Let's close it out. For this one here, let's change the quest number to 2. All right. Let's go ahead and change the actual text inside of this, which I think is going to be this one here. Let's say, thank you again for looking for the forest fruit. Awesome. All right, did I put a period in the last one? I think I did, but let me double check. Did I put a period? No, I did not. Let me put a period there. All right, awesome. Let's close that guy up. All right, and again, we can change the buttons. Let's go ahead and make this one a little longer and make it something like that. I'm going to delete this one here. And for this button is basically going to be like a no problem, because we're just continuing the quest, but we have not figured it out yet. So I'm just going to say no problem. Oops. All right, no problem. And then we're also going to have one that just says I give up, in case we want to give up on this quest and if we wanted to start like another quest. Oops. Looks like I didn't duplicate the button, just the text. There we go. And then for this one, we'll keep it as maybe NP, no problem. There we go. And then for this button, let's go ahead and change this to I give up. Okay, in case we want to cancel the quest that we're currently in. Awesome. So now we have this one here, perfect. And it looks like I spelled give wrong. Whoops. There we go. Awesome. Let's see how that looks. And I like it. Awesome. All right, perfect. One more now, and then we should be done with that. So let's go ahead, close this out. Oh, it looks like actually I didn't name this one. I kept it at Y. We can change that name of the button to give up. Give up. Awesome. All right. Let's go ahead, close that. Let's go ahead, Control D on it. Disable the original one here. We can make this one number 3 now. Let's go ahead. Awesome. All right, open that up. All right, so for the last one, we're going to add a couple things to it. Let's go ahead and put thank you again for the fruit. We'll keep that same word, but we are going to add one thing, which is going to be one button. Of course, when we have the fruit, this one's going to be visible. This one we're going to go ahead and say have fruit, because now we're going to have the fruit and we can give it to him. Awesome. We can open that up. Inside the text, we could say I have it. All right, awesome. And there you go. Once we click this button, the fruit will go away and we will get the key to unlock the next part of the map. Awesome. All right, looks good there. Let's go ahead and close that up. Close that up again and disable that. And perfect. Awesome. All right, so far so good. All right, so in this section, we're going to go ahead and create the Game Over UI. We're going to start off creating the Game Over panel, then we're going to go ahead and add an image on it for the button, and then also one for like a little animation of a little ghost. Then on top of that, we're going to create an animation for the whole thing. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, now that we got all the NPC conversations created, let's go ahead and move on to creating the next part. So we're going to need a little ghost animation for the Game Over screen. So let's go ahead and find that. It should be in the art folder. Ninja Adventure, all the way down to Actors, and then the Monster Pack. Now we're going to be using a specific one in here. That's going to be the Spirit one. It should be way at the bottom. It's going to be this little Spirit sheet. So I already pulled it out of the Spirit folder right here, which I accidentally put it in the Monsters one, but all it is this one here. So go ahead, drag and drop it into the art folder. All right. Once it's in the art folder, let's go ahead and edit it. So let's go ahead and make this multiple. Let's go ahead and make this 16. Let's go ahead and make this point. Change the format to 32-bit. All right. Let's go ahead and apply that by selecting somewhere else. Hit save. Awesome. Selecting it again. Let's go to Sprite Editor. Let's go ahead and make sure it's sliced. If you go to Slice, and then you go to the grid by cell size, make sure it's pixel size of 16 and 16. Hit Slice, and there you go. Awesome. Don't forget to hit Apply. All right. Looking good. All right, now that you have that there, let's go ahead and make a new panel inside the canvas. We're going to right click. We're going to go ahead. We're going to create UI panel, wherever that is, right over here. Awesome. Let's call this Game Over. Game Over. All right. For Game Over, we're going to go ahead and simply make this go all the way invisible for now, just like that. Awesome. All right. Now we are going to make another object before putting it inside the Game Over. So in Canvas again, right click, let's go to UI. Let's go ahead to image this time. All right, and we can go ahead and call this image ghost. All right, or spirit, whatever one you want to do. I'm going to select it here. And I'm going to drag and drop our current image of it, which should be this one here. All right, awesome. And that should be a good size for what we want. Now we are going to create the animation real quick. Also, it's going to be really simple, nothing major. So let's go ahead and go to animation. Let's go to create. Make sure we are selecting the animations right there. Awesome. Let's give this a name. I'm going to call it Ghost Anim for animation. All right, awesome. Now from here, we're going to go ahead and take the project and move it up here right above the palettes and all that stuff so we can double see it over here and see the screen. All right, we're going to scroll on down and we're going to find the ghost animation. So let's go ahead and make it a 4x4, which should be like that. Awesome. So we're going to be using all the down ones here. So in the animations right over here, let's go ahead and red button. Now we're starting off, of course, with the original one, which is right here. Then we're going to make it move like this. We're going to make it move the next one on the 0.20. And then this one over here on 0.30. And then we're going to go back to the original one, I think, or actually, let's see how that looks. I think, yep, we need one more. We need back the original one again on 0.40 or 4. Let's see how that looks. Yep, that looks pretty smooth to me. Awesome. You can slow it down if you want to, or you can keep it the same. That's completely up to you. Awesome, so that's down for that. Turn off the red button. Perfect, we have the ghost animation. All right, let's bring the project back over here. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stretch this back. And all right, looking good so far. All right, let's go ahead and do the next part now. So we're gonna go ahead and add more to the actual game over panel that we made earlier. So now that we have the image ghost here, we can go ahead and drag and drop it into the game over. Now the reason why we did that is because we needed to give it its own animation, and you can't give it an animation if it's a child of an object. So that's why we did it here. And then we moved it in after we created the object animation. All right, awesome. So we're going to create another animation for the game over one. But before we do, let's go ahead and disable the ghost anim, just like that. Awesome. All right, now for the game over, let's go ahead and go to the animation. Let's create a new one right here. Let's call this just game over idle. All right, just like that. Enter. All right, we have one animation for there. We're going to create another one now as well. Now this one's going to be called the game over, and we'll just do anim. So this is the effective game over one. All right, awesome. Now before we add some stuff there, we're going to need to add some more things in here, such as a button and the actual text game over. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to right click on the game over panel, go to UI, let's go to text. Let's go ahead and bold this, and then we can also make it completely red, just like that. Awesome. Let's also go ahead and center it. Let's go ahead and we can stretch the rectangle that it has. I'm going to make it pretty big. All right. Let's go ahead and center everything with the X value. All right. We might need to switch to move tool and then center it. There we go. Let's move it up. All right. Let's go ahead and put game over for the text. All right, let's go ahead now and make the font bigger. Let's try 80 and see if that's big enough. Might be a little too big. Let's try 75. There we go. Awesome. All right, after that, let's go ahead now and we're going to disable this. So let's go ahead, turn that off. All right, now we need a button. So let's go ahead and right click on it. UI. Let's go to button. All right. Go this down a little bit. We can make this button a little bigger. So I'm going to do something like that. I'm going to go in the button and I'm going to go ahead and select or type in play again. All right, maybe question mark. There we go. Awesome. And we could change the color of the button to match more of the game. Let's go ahead and make it that same light color there. Awesome. And we can keep the text just like that. You can change the text color if you want, but I think that'll be good for now. Awesome. All right, and we can change the name of the button. So we have button play again. Awesome. So let's go ahead and edit the animation now. Don't forget to turn this off though, because remember, during the idle time, we don't want anything to be visible for the game over screen. We are going to keep this active though. All right, let's go ahead and switch it to the, oh no, we're already in game over anim. Awesome. So the game over idle is not going to be the one doing anything, but the game over anim is. All right, awesome. Let's go ahead and red button it here. So at the very beginning, we want to go ahead and we want to switch this to slowly go all the way black. So let's go ahead and go to, let's try 3 seconds. All right. And then we're going to make it all the way black over here. There we go. So once the game ends, it's going to start and then fade into the black. All right. Now maybe that's a little slow, so we could go ahead and make that a little less. Let's try at the 2 mark. Okay. All right, let's see how that looks. Looks pretty good, I think. Could make it even go a little faster also. Let's try the 130. Hit play, and yep, I like that a lot better. Awesome. So now once we get to this part here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make other things visible or start to fade in, basically. So we're going to have, of course, the animation. So that should be the image ghost. Oops, make sure we're still on red though. All right, gamer anim, and we're gonna get all the way there. Make sure we select red. I'm gonna zoom out here, and then we're gonna select this on. It should allow us. Oh, you know what we need to do to make that work? We need to put it inside of another image. So on the game over, we're gonna right click. We're gonna go to UI. We're gonna go to image. All right, we're going to make this image invisible though, okay, just like that. And then we're going to go ahead and drag and drop the ghost image into that one. Awesome. So now we can edit this one in the original game over animation. All right, awesome. So again, make sure this is turned on, but make sure the actual one above it is turned off. Awesome. All right, back to the animation. Let's go to the game over anim. All right, we get to this part where it fades out. All right, then what we're going to do is we're going to red button and then turn on the ghost image. All right, so it's going to play that image. And then what we also want to do is we want to turn on the game over text as well. And I kind of want this to fade in, so right when it turns on, we're going to have it completely faded out. And then once we get to the, let's do the 230 mark, we're going to go ahead and make it completely visible. Same thing with the button. We're going to turn on the button right at the 130 mark. So we're going to enable the button now, but we're going to make it fade in completely when we get to the right one, okay? Now is this centered? I don't think it is. So I'm going to turn off the red button. Did we center this correctly? I don't think we did. Let's make sure that's centered though. Yep, there we go. All right, back to the game over. Make sure that's turned off this because we're not in the red button. All right, back to game over. Red again, so we get to here and things appear. We do want this button to fade in also, so go to the play again button. Let's make that at the beginning invisible. Also the text, I guess. Make that invisible also. All right, and then once we get to the 230 mark, we can make everything visible. So let's go ahead, make the button all the way visible. And then also the text of the button as well. All right, awesome. So let's go ahead and hit play and see how that looks. So we get to game over, and then things start to slowly appear. Awesome, I kind of like it. Awesome. All right, and we'll also have this animation playing as well for the ghost once we activate it too. All right, looks good. Let's turn that off. Play button. Let's go back to project. All right, I'm gonna stretch that back over there. And so far, so looking good. All right, in this section, we're going to go ahead and create the player. We're going to start off creating the player sprite. Then we're going to go ahead and add some physics, box colliders, and then also go ahead and give it some animations. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So let's go ahead and first add the player sprite. So I'm going to close the entire canvas because we're not going to be working in the canvas anymore. Also the grid as well. Let's go ahead and let's find the player sprite, and I think we already added it. It's going to be this sprite for this blue samurai ninja guy, okay? So I dragged and dropped this in here. You can use any of the other ones if you want as well. I'm going to use this one because I think it looks the best. All right, we also have this, and if you remember, we also have the arrow. Now we need to drag and drop in the sword and also the bow itself. So let's go ahead and find those. Let's go ahead in here. Let's go ahead into, actually I think the sword and items would be in the items, yep. Let's go ahead and go to weapons. Let's go to bow. Let's go ahead, drag and drop this bow into the art folder. All right, there we go. Back to weapons. Let's go ahead and use big sword. And we're going to use this one without the handle. It's going to be this one on the left, or I mean the right. Let's go ahead and drag and drop that into the art folder. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead, select over here. All right, looking good so far. Now we have all the sprites. Let's go ahead and make sure they are all cropped and formatted correctly. Let's do the bow first. This one is going to be a single. We'll do 16, filter mode point, 32-bit, sprite editor, apply. All right, make sure that's applied. Awesome. Let's go ahead, do the sword one now. That same thing, single, 16. Let's go ahead and make this point, automatic, 32-bit. All right, apply or save, perfect. And I think we already did this one. It's the same thing, except of course this is a multiple one, 16 pixels per unit, point, RGBA 32-bit, and again, we went to the 16 by 16 for the slice up here. So make sure that is sliced and applied. Awesome. All right, make sure you have all that there. So far, so good. All right, let's continue. Now, before we drag and drop the player sprite into the map, what we're going to do actually is create a empty over here. So let's go ahead, right click. We're going to do, actually, you know what, instead of creating empty, let's just drag and drop the player in, and then we'll make him invisible. This is going to be kind of like the outliner of the player. So I'm going to go ahead and just rename this sprite player, lowercase. All right, then from there, I'm going to go ahead and change a couple things. First thing is the tag up here. I want to change this to capital P player tag, okay, just like that. Awesome. All right, next thing, I'm going to make this color entirely invisible because this is not going to be the player sprite we're going to work with. We're going to work with the one inside of it. All right, but we are, though, going to go ahead and add some components. We're going to add a rigid body 2D. All right, we're going to change a couple things on it. The only thing is going to be, of course, the gravity scale to 0, and then one more, actually two more, the interpolate, this one here, that's set to none. We're going to change that to interpolate, the same thing as the name, all right, just like that. Then we're going to give it some constraints of freeze rotation of Z, okay, because we don't want this player to rotate. We only want him to go up and down, all right, up, down, left, right. All right, now let's go ahead and give him a box color 2D as well. All right, box color 2D, make sure it has that green box around the player sprite. Looks good there. You can adjust it with this button here if you want to. All right, we have that there, perfect. Now we need the actual player sprite itself. So I'm gonna again drag and drop the same sprite we used into here. All right, and this is the sprite we're gonna use to imitate. Now we do wanna center it with the one above it, so make sure the X position equals 0 and the Y position also equals 0. Awesome. All right, so now that we have that there, perfect. We're gonna go ahead and add one more thing. We're going to add the player weapons now, but let's change this name to player sprite though, because now we're working with the player sprite, capital S, sprite, awesome. All right, let's create another empty inside of it. We're going to create empty and we're going to call this weapons. This is how we're going to change out our weapons. So we're going to have two different weapons. We're going to have the sword and then the bow. So let's go ahead and drag and drop those in there. So we have the bow in there, awesome. Make sure it's zeroed out. 0 and 0, and then we're also going to have the sword. Drag and drop that into there. Let's zero it out. There and there, awesome. And let's change the name so we know which one it is. This one I'm just going to call bow for the bow. All right, and then for the sword, let's go ahead and just call this sword. Awesome. All right, looking good for that. Now for the bow, we don't need anything on it other than, of course, the tag, which we can leave untagged actually because we're not hitting with the bow, we're going to be shooting stuff out of it. But for the sword though, we are going to be hitting with it, so let's make it a tag. Let's go ahead and add this. I'm going to call this sword 1. All right, let's save that. Actually, I think what we should do is make it capital to match with the player one. So sword 1. All right, save that. Perfect. Go back to sword. Let's make sure that tag is on there for sword 1. Awesome. All right. Another thing we're going to do is make sure the layer is behind the player because as you can see it's currently above the player. So let's select the player itself sprite. Now we can make the player sprite a little higher up. We could do something like, let's do a 5 for that. And then the bow and the sword we can go ahead and make a 4. Awesome. Now again for the sword, because we're going to be attacking things with the sword, we need to give it a box collider 2D. But because we don't want to give this sword the ability to stop us from moving or anything like that, we want to make this box collider a trigger. So make sure that trigger is clicked. Okay, awesome. All right, so far so good. I like it. Let's go ahead and turn off the weapons from up here. All right, perfect. All right, now we have everything for that. Looks good. All right, so far so good. All right, next thing we're going to do is get started on some of the animations. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and select the main player up here. And we're going to go ahead and make some animations. Now there's going to be a couple different ones because we need all the idle ones and we need all the moving and we need the attacking. So there's going to be quite a few. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's go to animation. All right, let's create the first one. Now we're going to call this one player idle, D for down. Okay, Let's create that one. All right, now let's go ahead and grab our project here and put it at the top right, how we usually do it, and let's move this down. All right, I'm going to move this way across just so we can see all the animations. All right, let's go back into that art folder and find all of our sprites. I'm going to make sure it's like a 4x4. There we go. All right, now what we're going to do is for the idle one, we actually can leave it the same because it's just going to be the downward just like that. So we can actually just go ahead and put the same one there. Now when we dragging and dropping it though, there's one thing to make sure, because we're not messing with the original one here, just the one here, what we actually do is we need to take away that one, and we need to make sure when we're red buttoning inside the animation that we're dragging and dropping it into the actual sprite, player sprite, okay? Not just here, because if you do it here, it's going to by default go to the player. So we need to initiate it from over here first. All right, so that's the player idle down. Let's go ahead and create another one. We're going to do player, capital I, idle, R for right. All right, let's go ahead and do that now. Red button. Make sure we are selected on the player sprite. Now let's find the facing right, which is this one here. And there we go. Awesome. Red button. Let's create another one now. So now let's do player idle left for L. All right. Let's go ahead, red button, make sure we're selecting player sprite. Let's find the facing left, and there we go. Awesome. All right, let's do the up one now. Create new clip. We're going to do player idle U for up. All right, let's go ahead, red button that, make sure we're selecting player sprite, find the facing up, and there we go. Awesome. All right, we have all the idle positions selected. Awesome. Now let's go ahead and create some more. Let's go ahead, create new clip. And what we're going to do for this one's going to be player, capital W, walk, D for down. All right, let's go ahead, red button, find the walking start animation, which should be this one here. Let's go ahead, drag and drop that into there. Actually, wait, remember we have to put it over here. Make sure we're doing a player sprite. There we go. Now that we got it there, now we can go ahead and drag and drop it into this. We just had to start it off here. All right, so we have moving down like that. Then we're going to go back to the regular position right there. Then we're going to go to the next one, which is going to be right here. Back to the original one. And then one more all the way back to the original movement. All right, and it should look pretty fluent if we go ahead and click that. Perfect. Looks great. Awesome. All right, let's go back there, deselect the red button. Let's do another one. We're going to do player walk right now. So player walk, capital R for right. All right, let's go ahead, red button, make sure you're selecting player sprite. Let's go ahead and find the walking right, which should be this position here. So the forward arm one is right here. Let's go ahead, drag and drop that into there. Awesome. Let's go over here. Let's go ahead and do the standstill one. Let's do the arm back. And then again, stand still again. And then the walking front again. So make sure it looks fluent. All right. There we go. I like it. Awesome. All right, red button. Let's go ahead, create new clip. Let's again do player, capital W, walk, L for left. All right, let's go ahead, red button, make sure we're selecting player sprite. Let's find the left movement, drag and drop it over here first. Go to point 1. Let's go ahead, make the stand still there. Let's do the next one for the arm back. Let's go ahead, do stand still again. And then the walk forward again. Awesome. Let's go ahead and hit play. See how that looks. I like it. Awesome. One more now for the walking. Let's go ahead, red button that. Go back to here. Let's do player, capital W, walk, U for up. All right, red button. Select player sprite. Let's start off with the moving up, which is this one here. Awesome. Then we go ahead, go back to regular standstill. Then we go ahead and do back arm, or reverse arm, the one we had. Back to standstill, and one more for moving back, same way. Let's make sure that's fluid. Awesome. All right, perfect. So now we have all the walking ones as well. Make sure to red button to cancel that. Awesome. Now we need the attacking ones, and this is going to be a little different. Let's go ahead and create the first one, which is going to be player, capital A, attack, D for down. All right, red button. And we're going to find the attacking down one, which should be, I think it's this one here. So let's go ahead and put that there. And what we're going to do, oh, I forgot to do the one thing I mentioned. Remember, we want to select a player sprite. We want to do this one here. Perfect. All right, so now he's in the attack position. we're going to go ahead and re-enable now our weapons. All right, so let's enable weapons. And what we got to do is place both of these in the correct position. So let's go ahead and make sure, well, not both of them itself, but make sure the actual bow is in the right position. So let's go ahead and move that somewhere like here. We can adjust it later, but for now I think that'll look good. All right, and then also the sword position. So let's go ahead and put that where I would think the sword needs to be, which should be right about there. Let's go ahead and red button real quick. All right, I just want to make sure that they're in the right position, so I'm going to disable bow. Let's see how that looks. See how the sword's a little too forward? We might have to move it back. And let's see how the bow looks without it. The bow looks good to me, just the sword needs to move back a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and re-enable both of those. All right, re-red button it. Now again, we need to move this one down a little bit. There we go, awesome. So we're gonna initiate this attacking position, and we're gonna go ahead and go to, like, let's say right here, we're gonna turn it off now. So now we're gonna turn off weapons, all right? So basically what's gonna happen is this is gonna turn on the weapons and then turn it off. And then with the script, we're gonna go ahead and turn off and on the actual bow and sword when we switch between weapons, okay? Awesome. So now we have the attack down one set. That's good. Let's go ahead and do the other ones now. So create new. We're going to do player, capital A, attack, R for right. All right, let's go ahead, red button that. Let's go ahead and make sure we're selecting player sprite. Let's go ahead and do the attacking right, which I think is this one here. There we go. All right, let's go ahead, re-enable the weapons. There we go. Let's go ahead and do the sword first, because that's usually the hardest to, so we're going to need to rotate this. So let's go ahead, Z value it. I think it's 90 degrees, yep. And we're going to put it right about there. So it looks like the player is holding the sword, awesome. All right, and of course the bow, same thing, 90 degrees. And then we can go ahead and put that in the position we want the bow to be in. Maybe a little lower. Awesome, that looks pretty good. All right, and then remember, once we get to the point 1, let's go ahead and turn off the weapons. There we go, awesome. All right, red button that. Let's go ahead and do the new one. Let's do player, player, capital A, attack, L for left. All right, let's go ahead, red button that. Make sure we're selecting player sprite. Find the left attack, which I think is this one over here. Yeah. Let's go ahead and put that there. All right, let's go ahead and enable the weapons. Let's go ahead and do the sword first. Now this one we have to turn, I think we have to turn it 270. Yep. And let's go ahead and place that above the hand. Be back a little bit. There we go. All right, you can adjust that as needed. All right, and then of course let's do the bow as well. So 270 for the rotation of the Z value. Let's go ahead and move that over, and we'll move that a little down. Awesome. And remember, let's go to point 1, turn off the weapons now, and there you go. Awesome. Red button that. Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and do the last one. Create new clip. Let's do player, attack, U for up. There we go. Save that. Let's go ahead, red button, make sure we're selecting player sprite. Let's go ahead and do the up attacking, which I think is this one here. Let's go ahead, put that there. Let's enable the weapons. All right, let's go ahead and do the sword one first. This one's going to be 180, I think. All right, let's put it in the right position. Should be somewhere like there. Maybe a little more. Like that, awesome. Let's do the bow now. Again, 180 for the Z value. Let's go ahead, raise that up. Move that over a little bit. And I think that should be good. Awesome. Let's go to the 0.1 second. Select weapons. Disable that. Awesome. All right, red button. And there we go. Let's double check all the attacking ones. So yep, that looks good to me. That looks good to me. That looks good to me. Awesome. And this guy here is still invisible. Yep. Awesome. All right, so far so good. Make sure you have all that down. I'm going to move this back over here. And I'm going to go back to the original one. Awesome. All right, looking good. All right, so in this section, we're going to go ahead and create the player script. We're going to first add the script to the player. Then we're going to add all the functionality to the script to help the player move around, pick up items, attack things, play animations, have the game over functionality, all that stuff. All right, now don't be shy to copy and paste the code if you need to. I've attached it to the description if you need it. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So first thing we're going to do is select the player itself, the upmost one right here. We're going to go ahead, scroll all the way down. We're going to go to Add Component, and we're going to go ahead and call this Player Controller. We're going to go ahead and do New Script. We're going to go ahead, create an add, let that load. Now you can see the script right here. Let's go ahead and drag and drop that into our scripts folder to keep things organized. Awesome. All right. Still might be loading on the bottom left over here, or bottom right. It's that little wheel going on. All right, once that's done, we can go ahead, double click, and open up our Visual Studio Code. All right, let that load. Might take a while if it's the first script we're creating on the project. All right, let's go ahead, scroll down here. Let's go ahead and double click it, open it up. Let it load. Can ignore this error here. All right, once it loads, it should open up your Visual Studio Code just like this. Awesome. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste some of the code and explain what it is. We're going to start off with all the using libraries up here. So currently we have these three here, and we're going to add a couple more. We're going to be using the Unity engine. Should have auto-completed. Unity engine dot scene management. All right, because we're going to be bouncing between new scenes when we restart the game. Technically, we're also going to be using TMP Pro for all of our text and buttons. Okay, so make sure you have that. Awesome. So that's going to be it for that part. Now we're going to have quite a few variables. So let me copy all the variables I have. Once I have them all, then we should be good to paste them in. 1 second, let me grab those. The list's a little long. Once I find the rest of it. All right. Here we go. All right, let me copy that. Now I'm going to be pasting the variables up here, and you can either follow along or copy and paste the code on the description. All right, so let's go ahead, make sure we have all this here. All right. Now, currently we are using, why is that doing that? What the fuck? That's nice. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So let's go ahead and select the player right up here. Let's go all the way down, and we're going to add a new component, which is going to be the script. We're going to call this player script. All right, let's go ahead and create new, create an add. Let that load. Might take a second or two to load. All right, ignore that error down there. All right, so we have the script. Let's go ahead and drag and drop it into the scripts folder. Awesome. Once that loads, we can go ahead and double click our script and open it up. Let's let that load. All right, awesome. Let's double click it, open it up. All right, and there we go. Awesome. So here's our player script. Let's go ahead and add a couple things to it now. So I'm going to be copying and pasting what I have from my source code, and you can also do the same to follow along. So the first thing we're going to do and add is going to be add some new things up here for our usings. So the first one is going to be using Unity engine dot scene management semicolon. All right, that's going to help us use the ability to change scenes throughout the game. We're also going to do a using capital TMP Pro, and that's going to help us connect to our current text and buttons inside of our Unity. All right, so awesome. So make sure you have those two there. All right, that's going to be right below the Unity engine one. Okay, once you have that, I'm going to copy and paste my current variables I have. So let me get those real quick. And let me copy those. All right, so I'm going to put all the variables right above the void start comment right here. So right over here, I'm going to paste this. I'm going to explain as we go, and you can either copy and paste or you can follow along. So the first variable here is going to be a private vector2 input. That's going to help us calculate our input of either up, down, left, right. Then we're also going to be using a public float, which is going to be the move speed, which is going to be, the speed of our movement. Then we're going to have a public rigid body 2D. That's going to be the rigid body connected to our current player sprite that we are going to be using. Then we're going to have the actual animator of that player. That's going to be our player anim. So anytime we want to call a specific animation, we're going to be using this player anim value. All right, awesome. Now below that, we're going to have a int for direction. And basically what I'm going to do is every direction of 1 or 0, 1, 2, and 3 is going to be a certain direction. I'm going to have 0 as down, 1 as right, 2 as left, and then 3 as up. Okay, you'll see that throughout the code. Below that, we're also going to have a public float for attacking cooldown. And why are we going to have this? Well, we don't exactly want our player to continuously be able to attack, like hold down the attack button. We want it to stop in between attacks, just makes the game a little more fluid. All right, awesome. Then we're going to go ahead and have a public game object, which is going to resemble our sword, and also a public game object, which resembles our bow. Then we also have an arrow count int, which is going to be the count of our arrows, because we don't want to be able to endlessly shoot arrows. We want to be able to, have a certain amount and run out eventually. Also, we're going to need an actual game object to represent the arrow we're going to be using. Then we're going to need an int count similar to the direction count of the weapon in use. So if 0 is in use, then it could equal sword, and if 1, then it could equal bow. All right, awesome. Below that, we have some of the hurtingness animations. So first is a bool, which is going to be telling her whether or not the player is in the hurting. Now, why do we want this? Well, we're going to want certain things happen when the player is hurting, like not taking damage. So the player can't just infinitely take damage the whole game. There's a little bit of a pause between getting attacked. We're also going to have a sprite to represent what is taking the damage. That's going to be our player sprite. Then we're also going to have a public bool of still in enemy range, which is going to help calculate whether our player is getting hurt or not. Okay, awesome. Make sure you have that down. Below that, we're going to have some of our health stuff, such as the int, which is going to be our overall health count. All right. If you remember, we have current hearts that we're going to set depending on how much health we have. And of course, if we run out of hearts, we're going to want to play a animation for game over. All right. Awesome. So make sure you have those down. All right. Then below that, we have some of the text for all the different counters we have, such as the in-game coin text, which is resembled by the Text Mesh Pro Ui, which is going to resemble that TMP Pro thing we're using. We have the actual int count of it as well, because we're going to have an int count equal, and then we're going to transfer it into a string. Awesome. Then we're going to go ahead and have the same thing for the health potion count, the in-game arrow text, and then also the public game object for turning on and off the shop buttons. Okay, awesome. All right, now that we have that down, make sure you got all the variables. That's most of the variables we're going to be using. Remember, you can copy and paste it from the source code if needed. Awesome. So far, so good. All right, let's go ahead and continue on. So the next thing we're going to work on is everything in the void start, and luckily it's not a lot. It's just one simple variable getting a value, and that's going to be the player health equaling 3. Okay, so make sure you have that down. Awesome. All right, so now the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and add the void update stuff, and there is quite a few things in void update. So let's go, let me copy all that real quick. Copy all the void update stuff. It's going to be the biggest portion of code I think we're going to have in this project. So let me get all of that there. All right, I think this should be all of it. Let me just copy it down. I'm going to paste it inside the void update, and just so we know we're still in the void update, I'm going to add some slashes for comments in between it, just so we don't get confused. All right, so I'm going to add all that stuff there. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead, add one more enter, and there we go. All right, let's start at the top. So at the way top, we have the starting if statement, which is going to surround most of everything in here. That's going to be the attacking cooldown is less than or equal to 0, and the player health is greater than 0. So basically, if the attacking ability is not going on, and if the player health is above 0 and the game's not over, then we're going to allow our player to move and do all these different animations and all that stuff. All right, so the starting thing here is we're going to freeze the current rotation and the current position of our player. Now, why are we doing this? We're just going to make sure that our player can't basically rotate. All right, he can still move down, up, down and left, right, but we don't want to make his Z value rotate. So that's what these two things are doing here. We're doing that by using that rigid body 2D dot constraints, which is that button that you saw on the rigid body. Then we're equaling it to a value of rigid body 2D constraints dot none. So we're setting them to none first, and then we're going to go ahead and set the rotation one, which is that Z1, to 0. All right, or to checked, which makes it not able to move. All right, that's what that's doing there. Okay, moving on. Then we're calculating the actual movement of the player. Now, how are we doing that? We're using that value, the move input. We're doing a move input dot x. Okay, so whether or not it's going to move side to side. And how are we getting that? Well, we're using this input dot get axis raw horizontal. All right, so basically, if any key on the AD, which is those AD keys, or the side arrows. Okay. Now, for the vertical, the up and down movement, we're doing the same thing except we're using the vertical. So anything using the W and S and then the up and down arrows, okay? We'll calculate an input for these two guys, all right? Now, once we have those, then it's going to use this dot normalize for that move input that we have. This just helps it not be a float, so we get an exact number, okay? Awesome, so that's what that's doing there. Now, once we have those values, then we're going to calculate the actual movement for the player, so where we want to push them. And that's going to be this little if statement here. So the way I want him to move is up, down, left, right. I don't want to make him move horizontal, okay? So this is basically preventing the horizontal movement. How are we doing that? Well, we're going in and we're using math f.abs movement.x. So we're tracking the x value. We're making sure whether the movement of x, so the side-to-side movement, is greater than the y movement, okay? So if we're basically holding down the A key and then we hit W real quick, it's going to go ahead and make the A key be the dominant one, which makes the player move in the X direction, all right? And why are we reset? Even if we have that Y movement, though, shouldn't it add it? Well, no, because we're doing this move input dot Y equaling 0. So even if this value is still higher than 0, if it's less than this value, we're going to equal to 0, okay? All right, and then we're moving the actual player by using the rigid body that's attached. We're using a dot velocity, and we're equaling that to the move input times the move speed of what we set in the public script, okay? Awesome, so that's making the player move side to side. Now, what if it isn't? What if this is switched around and the Y value is bigger than the X value? Then we're gonna have this else here to do it the same thing, except of course we're equaling the X value to 0 this time over here, all right? So this whole thing is just making the player move either up or down or side to side, okay? Awesome. All right, now the next thing, of course, is calculating which animation we wanna play. Now this here is going to calculate it using an if statement of whether the move input dot y is of course greater or less than 0. This one is going to be less than. So basically, if we're moving down, if our input for y is below 0, then we're going to go ahead and play that player walk D direction for player walk down, and we're going to set that direction as mentioned before to 0 because I want 0 to be the meaning for going downward, okay? Awesome. So we have that one for this one. Then we have an else if for another one, which is going to be greater than x. So basically, if he's moving on the D key or the right arrow key, then we're going to play that right movement animation, which is right here, the player anim dot play player walk right for R. And of course, we're going to set the direction to 1, all right? Same thing here. This is going to be the reverse of x. So if it's, of course, less than x, so going on the A key or the left arrow, we're going to play that walking left animation with the player anim dot play, and then of course we're going to set that direction to 2, which is what I wanted to make it. Now of course the last one is going to be the walking up direction, so same thing, if the y value is greater than 0, then we're going to go ahead and set the player anim to that player walk up direction, all right? And of course, last but not least, we're going to set the direction to 3, which I want to be the up direction, all right? Awesome. Now, why did I do this instead of a bool? Well, it's because I don't want to have multiple bools. I'd rather just have one value equaling the certain direction. That's why I did an integer for this, okay? Awesome. All right, now, of course, we need the idle animation, so whether or not the player is not moving. So if the player is not moving in any y direction or any x direction, then we're going to go ahead and set the player idle. Now, why did we set this direction? That's for this part specifically here, where, of course, we need to know which idle position because we have all these different ones. So if, of course, that direction is equaling 0, we're going to play the down one. If it equals the 1, we're going to play the right idle. If it equals the 2, then we're going to play the left one. And, of course, the 3, the up one, all right? So this is calculating all the idle animations, all right? Make sure you have that down. All right, moving on. Now for the attacking part, it's a little more complex. Now, of course, we want to initiate the attacking if a certain key is pressed, and that's what this input.getKeyDown key code space. So if the space key is selected or clicked, then it's going to go ahead and initiate an attack. All right. Now, we're going to have, of course, the direction of the attack because we have 4 different directions for the attack. We also have 4 different animations. That's why we need that. And last but not least, we need the cooldown, okay? So we need to set the cooldown to a new number, all right? That's what this is doing. All the cooldowns are going to equal 0.4f. If you want to change that, you can. That's up to you. And of course, the player attacking for the D for 0, the player 1 for right, the player 2 for left, and the player 3 for up, okay? So make sure you have all this down for player attacking. Now, still inside the actual if statement for the space bar, we're going to have a second part, and this is going to be for shooting the actual arrows. Now, if you remember, we don't want to shoot the arrows if we have not the current arrow count. So we don't have greater than 0 arrows. We don't want to do it. And if the weapon in use is set to 1. So if the weapon in use is set to something like 2 or 0, it's not going to work. So the bow count I want to equal 1. All right, we'll set that in a little bit. So once we do initiate shooting an arrow and all these values are correct in what we want, then we're going to first, of course, set the count of the arrows, which is this here using playerperf.setInt. Arrow count is our key value. Then we're going to minus the arrow count minus 1. All right. Now this whole playerperf thing is basically a saving system in Unity. It can save up to like I think 22 megabytes of information, which is really nice for little games like this. So we can set ints here. We can also do a get int if we want to get it. You'll see that in a little bit. And we recognize which int it is by using a key value. So this key value has to be the same anytime we want to use this specific value. All right, awesome. So that's what that's doing there. It's saving the minus value of the current one because we're now initiating a new attack. Again, now we need to initiate where the direction of the arrow is going to come out of because it's going to be different depending on which direction the player is facing. So again, if it's 0, it's going to do it on this one by using an initiate. This initiate has a couple values inside of it. It has, of course, what value you're initiating out, which is that arrow prefab we're going to drag and drop. We want a transform.position. That's going to be by the position of the actual player itself. So if the player is anywhere on the map, it's going to initiate it from that player's position. Now, of course, we need to switch around the rotation of the object we're initiating, and that's what this here is going to be doing. This is going to initiate it from a specific direction. So if the player is facing 0, which is down, then we want to rotate that player perfs object, this arrow player prefab object, to 270 direction, which is in the down direction. We might need to adjust these directions depending on the player sprite / direction, but that's what it's doing. So we have this one for the down direction. We have this one here for the right direction, which just stays at 0 because by default the arrow is facing right. Then we have the left direction, which we're going to rotate it by 180 degrees, which is right here. And then we also have the last one, which is a 90-degree direction, which is facing it upwards, okay? Awesome. So that's going to be everything for the attacking. As you remember, it's the closing tag right here, which is going from here. And we have another closing tag right here, which is going from all the way, if you remember, from this part right here, which is that attacking cooldown, and of course the player health. So if neither one of these is set, then what we want to do is we want to have an else down here, okay? And in this else, we're going to have the rigid body constraints equal freeze all. So we don't want the player to move when he's attacking, okay? We also don't want him to move when he has no more health, okay? That's what this is doing, all right? So make sure we have this else statement here, all right? Another thing inside of the void update is going to be changing of the weapons. Now, how are we going to change the weapons? We're going to use the key code alpha 1, which is just 1 on your keyboard right above the letters. So that's what this is doing, the get key code alpha 1. Now, when this happens, we want to turn on the sword sprite for the sword, and we want to turn off the one for the bow, and we want to set the weapon in use to 0, okay? Now, again, we're going to do another one for the input key of alpha 2, which is just 2 above the letter keyboards. We're going to turn off the sword for this one. We're going to turn on the bow, and we're going to set the weapon in use to 1. So if you remember this weapon in use 1, we need this to be able to shoot an arrow out when we attack. That's what's setting this here, okay? Awesome. Make sure you have that there, all right? Make sure you have both of those there so you can switch in between weapons. Now another one we have also is going to be for using a health potion, which I'm going to use the H key for. So the input.getKeyDown, key capital H, so any H key you select on your keyboard, then you can initiate selecting a health potion. Now we don't want to always be able to drink a health potion. That depends on a couple things. One, if we actually have a count of it. So similar to the arrow count, we want to make sure we have a count. And also we want to make sure the player doesn't have maxed hearts already, which is the player health equaling or less than 3, okay? So if the player health equals or is any 3 or above, then it's going to not be able to happen. Then of course once we do this, we're going to of course add 1 plus to the player's health, which is this plus plus that equals 1 health. If you wanted to change that to something to a higher value, you could do a plus equals 2. The plus plus is just a quick way to add 1. That's why I'm putting that right there. Okay. Then of course, similar to the arrow count, if you remember, we're doing a set int because we're changing the values of the current health potion count that we have. That's the key value. We're going to go ahead and minus 1 from the original count that we have. Okay. Awesome. So make sure you have this to calculate and use the health potions. All right. Scrolling down, we have the actual timer countdown for the attacking cooldown. So if the attacking cooldown is greater than 0, then we're going to start the attacking cooldown. Now this here is just minusing it pretty much by a float of 1 second every second in real time. So this counter is going to always go down if set above 0. All right. So that's what the attacking cooldown is. All right. Awesome. Make sure you have that there. Then we have the actual losing health for the player. Again, then remember, this is all in the void update. We have if the player health is equal to 3, then we're going to have all the hearts at true. If we have the player health equal to 2, then we're going to set the heart 1 off, but the other 2 true. Same thing or similar thing to the health. If the health equals 1, then we're going to turn off heart 1 and heart 2, but heart 3 is still active. Then we're also going to have whether or not the player is 0 or less than 0. We're going to turn off all the hearts. We're going to play the game over animation, which is right here, game over dot play, game over anim. And then we're going to have the game object dot get component animator, and we're going to set that to 0. Now why are we doing that? Well, pretty much we're setting the speed of the animator to off, okay? Because we don't want any other animations of the player to be active. We don't want them to get stuck in like a walking motion or an attacking motion or something. We want to just turn off the animations or freeze him at whatever he's at, okay? Awesome. So that's what that's doing. All right, make sure you have that down. Now down here, this is just going to keep track of all of our collections pretty much over time. So like the coin count, every frame, this is going to keep updating. The player first get int of score count, which is the coin count. I know the name's a little weird. You could change that if you wanted to, but make sure you change it everywhere else also. Now, how are we actually equaling it to the text on the game? We're using this in-game coin text.text, which is, if you remember, one of our values that we have, our variables. Then we're using the coin count, which is an integer, which is calculated right here, .toString, because we have to turn it into a string before adding it into the text, okay? So that's what this is doing here. It's pretty much showing the actual live count of coins we have. This is doing the live count of arrows that we have, and this is doing the live count of health potions we have, okay? So make sure you have all 3 of these down so you can get the live count of all your items. All right, awesome. So that's the last part for the void update. So far, so good. All right, let's go ahead and continue on. Now the next parts are going to be some functions outside of the void and start. These are going to be like custom functions that we can have. All right, let's go ahead and let me copy them and I'll paste them in. It's going to be the final couple parts. So let me add everything I need for this. Let's go ahead and make sure we're outside of that closing bracket for the void update. I'm going to paste that there. Perfect. All right, let's scroll on up. So the first one here is going to be a public void on trigger enter 2D. This is something in Unity that we can use to basically detect triggers and collisions. Basically, this one's going to be for triggers, so anything that basically goes into the player, we're going to calculate. Now, which ones are we going to be looking for? We're going to be looking for the heart one, the coin one, and the shop, okay? So for this, we can use it by using the collision. So using the collision detects what is entering us right here. Then we use this .gameObject, .comparedTag, and then look for a specific tag. Now for the heart one, we want to make sure that, of course, our player health is below 3, or we don't want to add the heart. So that's going to be right here. That's going to be whether or not it's less than 3. All right. Once we do run into it, we're going to add, of course, a point, and we're going to destroy that heart object. All right. That's what this here is going to do. It's going to destroy that current collision object that we're running into. Okay. Awesome. The next one is going to be for the coin, similar to the coin. We want to, of course, find the tag. We don't really care about the health with this. We just can collect infinite coins. Once we do, though, get that, then we're going to have that player perf set int score count coin plus 1. So that's going to set that saved value of coin count plus 1. Then, of course, we're going to destroy the coin after we run into it. That's what that's doing there. Then we're going to have this other if statement here for the shop, and what this is going to do is basically turn on and off those shop buttons that we have. Okay, so if we're inside the shop area, then we're going to set true to the shop. Okay, now this here below is going to be completely the opposite, so exiting a trigger. So this here is going to be looking for that shop tag, and all it's going to be doing is once we get out of the shop trigger, it's going to go ahead and turn off the shop buttons. Okay, so when we enter the shop, we're going to see the buttons. When we leave the shop, we're going to turn off the buttons and not be able to see them. Okay, awesome. So this here, this emulator white color is pretty much initiating a function that we can use a yield return wait. Now why do we want this? Well, basically when our player is getting attacked, we're turning him a specific color. Okay, we're going to turn him basically red. All right, when the player turns red, then we're going to want him to eventually go back to the normal color. So for that, we're going to go ahead and make sure we have that selected. Let me make sure we have the right function for that because I'm not seeing it. I think we might have skipped the enemy one. Yep, let me grab that also. I actually missed that one. It should be right before this one here. Let me paste that. It's going to be right here. All right. It should be in the source code though in the correct way. I just missed pasting it. All right. This is going to be for collision. So unlike the trigger ones we had up here, this one is going to be for collisions. Okay. So when we run into an enemy. So when we run into a physical enemy, we can't go through. All right. That's going to be using this on collision enter 2D. Now, actually, I think I might have put this somewhere. I don't know. Oh, it was up there. Okay. Let me get rid of that. It was up there. I just misplaced it. Looks like I went straight to the trigger ones. All right, before we talk about this one, we'll go ahead and finish up here. All right, this is going to be this one here. This is going to be similar to that, except like I said, this one's going to be for actually running into an enemy. So an enemy with a box glider that is not selected that trigger collision button. Similar to the same thing, we're going to be looking for a specific tag, and then we're going to actually make sure a couple other things. One, we don't want to hurt the player again if he's already getting hurt, so that's why we're having this hurting needs to equal false. And of course, the player needs to have more than 0 health. All right, inside of here, we're going to set that player color now to red. That's what this is doing, the player sprite.get component sprite renderer. And then we're going to go ahead and use the dot color and equal the color to red. Now this is that sprite. This is not the actual player itself. We're going to drag and drop that value into it. Okay. We're also going to minus the health count to 1 if we get attacked. And then we're going to start the white color initiation. All right. That's what that is doing. All right. Apart from that, we're also going to do that a check for the player health. If the player health is above 0, we want to have a knockback. And this here code is doing a knockback. It's going to add a specific knockback. It's a little long. How it's doing it is using the transform.position of the current player, and we're giving it a new vector 2, which is just an x and y count. And we're using this dot move towards, which is part of Unity. But because we're moving towards it, what we're simply going to do is do a minus value instead. So we have that position of the player, and then the position of the enemy object that's running into us right here. And then we're going to do this -7, okay? So if we just had 7 here, it would actually move him towards the player, but because we're doing this -7, we're turning this move towards into a knockback, all right? And then you just need this time.delta time to initiate it in real time, okay? So this is the knockback code, all right? So make sure you have that in there inside the if statement. Then last but not least, we're going to set hurting to equal to true. Okay, now let's go forward now and go back to the start quarantine white color. We already talked about this one here, the on triggers. So back to the white color. Now why do we want this, of course, delayed a little bit? It's because we don't want to initially or immediately send it back to the white color. We want that red color to last a little while. So that's what this is doing. Now again, if the game is over though and we're out of health, we can just keep the player at red, so we don't even need to send the color white. So we only want to send the color back to white if our player still has health. Okay, that's why this if statement is here, even though here's the white color changing back. Okay, now after this part, we're going to go ahead and set the player hurting to equal to false. So I know we initially set it to true, but now after the 2-second wait time over here, we're setting it to false. Okay, last but not least, we're of course initiating and disabling the box glider. Now why are we doing this? I noticed there's a weird glitch in Unity where basically when you're running into something and you keep running into it, it's not going to get attacked, or it's not going to reinitiate the collision. All right, that's why I'm going to disable it and re-enable it. Now this is happening so fast that you're not even going to be able to tell in the game. It's going to be as fast as a frame rate, so super quick. You're not even going to see it happen. And all it's doing is disabling it, the box glider, and then re-enabling it. Okay, so make sure you have all this here for the emulator white color. Now we just have a couple little buttons down here. We have the play again button, which is going to be attached to the game over, where we have that scene manager.load scene, and this is set to 1. So if we had a main menu, we would set it to 0, and if we had it play again, which would be set to 1. Now because we are currently inside of a game that doesn't have a main menu, I'm just going to set this to 0 so we can just start the game. If you wanted to add a main menu, you could do that right over here with this main menu load scene 0 and then set that to 1. Okay, that's up to you. All right, but I'm going to keep that at 0 right there. Perfect. Then moving down, we have the buy arrow button. Now, of course, we don't want to be able to buy arrows if we don't have enough money. That's what this is making sure, that we have either enough. Now, actually, one thing we could add here is the coin count is greater than or equal to 5. We don't just have to have more than 5 if it costs 5. We can also have 5 itself. Then we're going to set the values. We're going to, of course, minus our current coin count, -5, and then add our current arrow count, +1. Okay. Same thing here for the buy potions. We're going to have it inside of a function. We're going to have the if statement checking to make sure, and we can add that equal sign right there to make sure the coin count is greater than or equals 5. Then we're going to, of course, set the coin count -5, and then, of course, set the potion count to +1. All right, awesome. So make sure you have all that down. I know that was a big script, but remember you can, of course, copy and paste it from the description if you want as well. All right, awesome. All right, so far so good. All right, back in the Unity project now, we can go ahead and set everything we need for the player script. So let's go ahead, select player, scroll down. Now we have a couple things to set here, quite a few. So let's start off with move speed. I'm going to set that to 4. All right, let's set the rigid body 2D, and if you remember, that's already attached to the main player, so we simply drag and drop the player into here. Now it's going to look for player animation. Again, it's going to be in the player, so we can drag and drop that into there. The direction we can leave at 0. Cooldown attack time, leave that at 0. It's going to look for the sword 1 and bow 1. Let's go ahead and attach those in there for sword 1, and then we can attach the bow 1 here. Arrow count, we can set that to, I think it actually is automatically going to set to 0 until we buy some. We'll leave that at 0. The arrow prefab we'll make in the next section. The weapon in use, leave that at 0. Hurting, leave that off. Player sprite, now remember the player sprite is not the main player up here. It's going to be the player sprite object we have inside. So let's go ahead, set that over there. Perfect. Player health, we will set that to 3, but it's also going to be 3 on start if I remember. It's going to look for the game over animation, and if you remember, that's going to be inside of our canvas. Let's go ahead and drag and drop that into the game over panel. There we go. Put that there. Awesome. Let's drag and drop all the hearts now. We have heart 1, 2, and 3. Let's attach each heart to the correct one. There's the one for heart 1. Let's attach heart 2. And let's attach heart 3. All right, in-game coin text, let's go ahead and attach that. It's going to be in here. The coin text is going to be right there. Let's go ahead and attach the in-game health potion. Let's go ahead and find that one. It should be right here. All right, let's add that there. In-game arrow text, let's go ahead and add that one, which is going to be right here. Awesome, and then the shop buttons, if you remember, that's going to be, I think, right here. Awesome. Let's go ahead, drag and drop that in there. Awesome. All right, looking good so far. Make sure you have all that down. Now, we can't exactly test it out yet. That's because we're missing one thing. We are missing the arrow prefab, which we're going to do in the next section. If you have enjoyed the sample and want to finish the rest of the course, go to the official website, redfoolstudio.com/academy, and become a Red Fool student to not only get access to the rest of this course, but all the courses we offer at Red Fool Studio. See you in the lectures!